The first words that shattered the silence weren't shouted in anger, but spoken with a raw, trembling desperation that felt far more dangerous. "Who in the hell ever told you that I like Emmer?" Oliver Eurostrade's voice, usually a carefully controlled baritone, cracked under the weight of a truth I was nowhere near prepared for. He grabbed my wrist, his grip like iron, his eyes wild and red-rimmed, locking onto mine. "It was never her. It's always been you. I don't hate you," he pleaded, the sound tearing from his throat. I like you." My world, which had been spinning wildly for weeks, suddenly ground to a dead, silent halt. All the torment, the rivalry, the carefully constructed walls of our mutual animosity, all of it was built on a lie. And as I stood there, frozen in his grip, my mind raced backward, trying to pinpoint the exact moment this catastrophic, life-altering misunderstanding began. It had all started with a simple, innocuous job posting. A personal assistant role. The pay was astronomical, the kind of money that could solve all my post-graduation problems in a single stroke. Eurostrade walked into that interview feeling confident, the crisp paper of the job description feeling like a winning lottery ticket in my hand. But then I heard his voice from the other room, that calm, composed tone that had haunted my academic life, and my blood ran cold. The reporter interviewing him was stunned by whatever Eurostrade said, but I was paralyzed for an entirely different reason. The name on the contract, the employer I was about to sign my life away to, was Oliver, mine arch nemesis. The man I had spent years competing with, clashing with, and, in one particularly reckless moment of post-graduation defiance, stolen a kiss from, just to see the fury on his perfect face. Every instinct screamed at me to run. This wasn't just a bad gig, it was a death sentence. As I pivoted on my heel, ready to bolt from the building and never look back, two hands clamped down on my shoulders, yanking me backward with surprising strength. It was Mir, Oliver Eurostrade's notoriously relentless agent. She dragged me into the office, her expression a frantic mix of desperation and salesmanship. "Don't worry," she pleaded. Eurostrade's actually a dream to work with once you get to know him. Just give it 3 months. She saw the horror on my face and quickly backpedaled. "No, wait. 2 months. Just 2, and I'll throw in a bonus that will make your eyes water." I braced myself against the doorframe, every fiber of my being screaming no. My voice was tight with disbelief. "You never said the employer was Oliver." If I had known it was him, I would have been on a midnight train to another country last night. Mir sighed, her professional facade cracking. "I get it. His reputation precedes him. The entire industry knows he's demanding, a perfectionist to a fault. But think about the salary, James. The perks are insane." She continued her pitch, but her words were just noise. My mind was a maelstrom of panic. If I didn't escape right now, before Oliver returned, the pack of reporters camped outside would have a field day. The reasons for Oliver's legendary temper were a mystery to the public, but I knew them intimately. I could already see the headlines flashing across my Minder Eurostrade's eye, a fresh new chapter in our long and bitter war. Screw it. It was time to bail. I finally managed to wrench myself free from Myra Eurostrade's desperate grip, my hand reaching for the salvation of the doorknob. But just as my fingers brushed against the cool metal, the door swung inward, and there he was. Oliver stood silhouetted against the bright hallway light, a tall, imposing figure whose very presence sucked the air from the room. My gaze dropped to the floor instantly, my brain scrambling for an escape route, a lie, anything. And then, with a sharp crackle, the world plunged into darkness. A blackout. For the first time all day, I felt a surge of gratitude. The fates, it seemed, were on my side. In the pitch black, I could feel his stare, a palpable weight landing on me. "Mir, what is this?" His voice was low, inquisitive. I held my breath, praying the darkness would swallow me whole. He hadn't seen my face. His tone was too calm, too detached for him to have recognized me. Mir, ever the opportunist, seized the moment. She clutched my arm, her voice bright and cheerful in the dark. "Oliver, perfect timing. I'd like to introduce you. This is James, your new life assistant." My heart hammered against my ribs. She hadn't even asked if Eurostrade D accepted the job. She had just thrown me to the wolf. "James." Oliver's voice repeated the name, and there was a subtle shift in his tone, a flicker of something I couldn't quite place. I froze, terrified that the sound of my own voice would betray me. Thank God I'd legally changed my name from William to James after graduation. He wouldn't recognize the name, but surely he'd recognize the man. I braced myself for the inevitable explosion, the sneering rejection. "There's no way I'm letting someone with that face be my assistant." But it never came. Instead, after a beat of suffocating silence, Oliver's voice cut through the darkness, flat and devoid of emotion. "Then you're hired. 10 o'clock tonight. My room." His calmness was more terrifying than any outburst. I could have sworn I detected a faint tremor beneath the surface of his words, a vibration so subtle it was almost imaginary. How could this be? The man who had supposedly rejected half the city's top candidates after grueling interviews, the man whose pickiness was legendary, had just hired me, his mortal enemy, in a pitch-black room without so much as a second glance. Soon after, Oliver was called away, and the lights flickered back on. I exhaled a shaky breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Mir latched onto me, her eyes pleading. "Please, James, just do this for me. I need you to handle Oliver for the next 2 months. My personal life is a train wreck after my boyfriend cheated, and I just can't manage Oliver's intensity full-time right now." Her vulnerability was a low blow. Against my better judgment, I caved. My one condition was that I wouldn't have to shadow him 24/7, leaving me free to pick up a second gig on the side. It was a deal with the devil, but a well-paying one. At 10 Eurostrade clock sharp, I stood outside Oliver Eurostrade's hotel room, my identity hidden beneath a baseball cap and a thick black face mask. The door was slightly ajar, and from within I could hear the breathy, delicate moans of a woman. "Oliver, you magnificent bastard." He had summoned me here at this exact time on purpose. It was a power play, a message. So now what? Do I walk in and become an unwilling audience to his conquest, or do I turn around and leave, effectively quitting on my first night? Before I could make a decision, the door was thrown wide open. Oliver stood there, looking bored, as he unceremoniously tossed a woman in a slinky red dress out into the hallway. She was slender, striking, and instantly recognizable. It was Sophia, one of the industry's fastest-rising starlets. She caught sight of me, a lone figure lurking in the shadows, and arched a perfectly sculpted eyebrow before gesturing for me to enter. I took a tentative step forward, but Sophia suddenly burst into a storm of tears, throwing herself in my path to block the door. "Oliver, help me!" she wailed, clutching at his arm. "I've been drugged." Oliver's expression didn't change. "Okay, I'll help you," he agreed, his voice monotone. Sophia's face lit up with a brief flicker of triumphant delight. but it vanished as she watched Oliver pull out his phone and calmly dial 120, the emergency number. "I've called a doctor for you," he stated simply. Her face fell. "Oliver," she whispered, her body trembling as she clung to him again. "I love you. I don't want a doctor. I just want you. I would die for just one night with you." She pressed herself against him, a portrait of weak, boneless devotion, her love confessed with a desperate, bold finality. Oliver shoved her away with a cold, definitive push. "Sorry," he said, his voice flat. "Not interested." Then, as if to erase any lingering doubt, he added a line that hit both of us like a physical blow. "To be perfectly clear, I don't go for women. I like guys." The words hung in the air, electric and stunning. Sophia froze. I froze. Was this just a brutal, efficient excuse to get rid of her? Or was it the truth? Perhaps overwhelmed by embarrassment or finally realizing that Oliver was an immovable object, Sophia shot me a look of pure venom before stumbling away down the hall. What the hell was that glare for? My head was buzzing as if Eurostrade D been struck by lightning. I was so disoriented that I didn't even register Oliver calling my name, beckoning me inside. For all the years I'd known him, I'd always assumed Oliver was straight. It was the entire premise behind my grand act of defiance at graduation. I had kissed him precisely because I thought it would be the ultimate way to provoke and infuriate him. But now, he was dropping this bombshell. If he was actually into men, then my whole elaborate revenge fantasy, the one I'd savored for years, was utterly pointless from the very beginning. "Are you coming in, or are you waiting for a formal invitation?" Oliver's voice jolted me back to the present. He was leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, regarding me with an unreadable expression. Up close, I was struck by how much he'd changed. He was taller now, significantly taller than me. I'm already 6'2", but he had a good head on me, easily pushing 6'3". What kind of secret growth serum had he been taking? The more I looked, the more a familiar spark of jealousy ignited within me. It wasn't just his height. He was infuriatingly good-looking, with broad shoulders that tapered down to a narrow waist and legs that seemed to go on forever. His entire frame was a testament to genetic perfection, built for designer clothes. Even in a simple set of deep blue pajamas, he looked like a living mannequin, radiating an aura of quiet elegance and untouchable pride. I ducked my head and shuffled past him without a word, immediately starting to clean up the mess of discarded clothes and wine glasses scattered across the floor. Oliver settled onto the sofa, crossing one long leg over the other, watching me. "James," he said. I simply nodded in acknowledgement. He pressed on. "Have you ever changed your name?" I nodded again, keeping my back to him, refusing to give him anything. "Yes, I changed it, but Eurostrade am certainly not telling you." After all this time, he probably wouldn't recognize the old me anyway, but there was a flicker of suspicion in his eyes that set me on edge. He sighed, a sound of pure impatience. "Can't you just talk?" He rose from the sofa and crouched down in front of me, his proximity making my skin crawl. "And take off the mask." I was prepared for this. I had rehearsed this moment in my head. It was time for the performance of a lifetime. I flinched dramatically, clutching the mask as if it were my only shield against the world. My fingers trembled as I fumbled for my phone, typing out a carefully crafted lie. I showed him the screen. "Sorry, I can't speak." His eyes widened slightly, caught off guard. I continued typing. "I can't take it off. My lower face Euros it's scarred. It would scare you." I even managed to squeeze out a few convincing tears, channeling my genuine terror of being discovered into my act. This man held grudges like they were priceless treasures. He still occasionally brought up a stupid childhood game where I'd playfully declared I would marry him. If he found out who I really was after the stunt I pulled at graduation, he wouldn't just fire me. He would obliterate me. I knew him too well. When he went after someone, he knew no limits. To my immense relief, my performance worked. Oliver recoiled slightly, his relentless questioning ceasing. He did a Euros trade T push me to remove the mask. Watching his stunned expression, I almost felt a sliver of pity. Perhaps he was finally realizing the consequences of his impossible standards, that the only person willing to work for him was a disfigured mute. I finished tidying the room and turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. "Stay by my bed tonight. You're not to leave." I stared at him, bewildered. "I have insomnia," he explained, already settling into bed. "I can't fall asleep unless someone is in the room with me." My mind screamed, "Then why didn't you let Sophia stay?" He was the master of tormenting his employees. But I couldn't refuse. So, as Oliver finally drifted into a restless sleep in the early hours of the morning, I curled up on the plush couch at the foot of his bed and passed out from sheer emotional exhaustion. What neither of us knew at the time was that our bizarre first night had not gone unnoticed. A paparazzo, originally tailing Sophia for a scoop, had stumbled upon a story of a lifetime. The next morning, the internet exploded. A-list star Oliver comes out. Famous actor reveals he's gay. Sophia's love confession ends in humiliation. And the most intriguing headline of all, Star's secret midnight rendezvous. Who is Oliver's mystery lover? The photos were grainy, showing me in my cap and mask, a shadowy figure entering the superstar's hotel room. The narrative spun itself. The public Euros trade's reaction was completely unexpected. Instead of backlash, there was an overwhelming wave of support. Oliver's fans were ecstatic. "I was so worried he was too picky to ever find love." One comment read, "But look at this. A secret late-night meeting. He even makes his boyfriend wear a mask to protect his identity. This is Oscar-level romance." I was officially in over my head. Oliver had said he liked men, but he certainly didn't mean me. The fancy Euros trade imaginations were running wild, creating a sweeping love story out of a contractual obligation. This was spiraling out of control. If we didn't perform some serious damage control, the tabloids would be announcing our firstborn by the end of the week. I assumed Oliver would issue a swift, cold denial, as was his custom. Instead, he turned to me with a thoughtful look. "You know," he said calmly, "maybe we should just lean into this rumor." His logic was simple and brutal. A public boyfriend would be the ultimate shield against the endless parade of women trying to get into his bed. The only problem with this plan was that I would have to play the part of his fake boyfriend. The idea was horrifying. If Oliver ever discovered my true identity, the combination of our old feud and this new deception would be catastrophic. He would erase me from existence. Mir, sensing my hesitation, pulled out a contract and launched into her signature blend of emotional blackmail and financial temptation. But how could I possibly agree to this? To pretend to be in love with my mortal enemy? Absolutely not. I swore to myself that if I signed that paper, I would write my name backward, just as a small protest against my own insanity. 500,000, Mir said, tapping a figure on the page. For 1 month. My resolve shattered. How much? I grabbed the pen and signed my name euros forwarder euros without a moment's hesitation. From that day forward, I was Oliver's fake boyfriend. It was just acting, after all, and I had done a bit of drama in school. How hard could it be? The charade began almost immediately. An old interview of mine resurfaced, one where I had vaguely mentioned stealing my first kiss from someone. The internet, now obsessed with our love story, went wild. A fan tagged Oliver directly. "Oliver, did your current boyfriend steal your first kiss?" I watched over his shoulder as he typed out a reply, a smug little smile playing on his lips. Close guess, but no prize. The wed erupted again. The irony was suffocating. They were right. I had taken Oliver Euro's trade's first kiss. As he put his phone down, I felt his gaze linger on me for a moment too long. My heart leaped into my throat. Had he noticed my nervousness? A few days later, he dropped the next bombshell. "We're going on a reality dating show," he announced. I inwardly groaned, but when your arch-nemesis is funding your future, you don't have many options. At least I could maintain my disguiser euros, the hoodie and mask would stay on. My cover story was perfect, a shy, non-industry nobody who just wanted love, not fame. Mir, however, hated my disfigured mute act. "You're not ugly," she insisted. "This is your chance to break into showbiz. You could be huge." I just shook my head. "Just let me off the hook, Mir. I only signed on to be an assistant." I couldn't tell her the truth euros that my elaborate disguise was born not of shyness, but of pure, unadulterated fear. If my cover was blown on national television, Oliver's revenge would be swift and merciless. As part of our preparation, Mir gave me a notebook filled with Oliver's personal details and made me write one about myself for him. The idea was to avoid being caught off guard by the show's notoriously invasive questions. I scribbled down some nonsense about James and tossed it to her. As for Oliver's notebook, I used it as a seat cushion. It was laughable, as if that arrogant jerk would ever bother to read something I wrote. I already knew all his Telsa euros, the way his cheeks puffed out just before he was about to say something infuriatingly smug. But I had no idea when he euros trade developed insomnia. That part was new. The show, titled Mind Games of Love, was famous for its brutal, unpredictable format. While other dating shows focused on fluffy, romantic moments, this one thrived on manufacturing conflict, pushing couples to their breaking points just to watch them try to piece things back together. On filming day, the producers wasted no time in coming for me. "Why the mask and hoodie? Are you insecure about your appearance? Why won't you speak? Do you hate the sound of your own voice? As an outsider dating a top-tier celebrity, are you worried he'll leave you for someone more famous?" The questions were relentless, each one designed to provoke a reaction. By the second question, I had given up even trying to formulate an answer on my phone. Then, something unexpected happened. Oliver leaned in close, a faint, reassuring smile on his face. "Sorry, everyone," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "The little guy has had a sore throat all week. He can't talk, so I'll be answering for him." He then addressed the producers directly. "First off, we are not splitting up," he said softly, yet with an unshakable finality. "And second, the only reason I want to date him is because he is him." The words were gentle, but I knew better. This was the smile Oliver always wore when he was secretly furious. It was a calm, controlled rage that terrified me more than any shouting match. The crew on set picked up on the vibe. Oliver was defending me, drawing a line in the sand. The invasive questions stopped. I let out a quiet sigh of relief and glanced at him. He was a picture of calm, slick control. It was surprisingly decent of him. Maybe he wasn't entirely a monster. "What are you looking at me for?" he asked, his gaze dropping to meet mine. "Thanks," I typed on my phone. Considering he had just saved me from public humiliation, I figured I could forgive him for the sleepless nights he already put me through. He turned his head sharply, a classic sign of his displeasure. "Also, you were pretty cool back there," I added. That finally earned me a reluctant nod. It was something, at least. My thoughts were broadcasted on the screen for the entire audience to see, and I could practically feel the collective disbelief. The idol was secretly a drama queen. Just as things settled, the crew announced a short break before the arrival of a final guest. The other two couples on the show wandered over to chat with Oliver. I stayed on the sidelines, playing my role as the silent, devoted boyfriend. "Rumor has it the guest is Emmer," one of the other contestants, Daniel, whispered to me with a friendly clap on the shoulder. "Don't stress, man. You're the real deal." Emmer, the name hit me like a punch to the gut. Emmer, the national sweetheart, our former college campus queen. She had co-starred with Oliver in a blockbuster film where they played a married couple, birthing one of the most powerful shipper fan bases in the country. But the internet didn't know the whole story. Emmer was the girl both Oliver and I had pursued in college. It was a pattern that had started in high school. Whenever I developed a crush on someone, Oliver would materialize the next day, effortlessly charming his way into her life. By college, I was no longer sure if I was chasing Emmer because I genuinely liked her, or if I was just doing it to spite Oliver, to finally win one of our silent battles. But I was fairly certain Oliver had real feelings for her. Why else would he allow their shipper fans to run rampant while meticulously shutting down rumors with anyone else? When Emmer arrived, smiling radiantly, her eyes went straight to Oliver. "I didn't think you'd ever agree to a show like this," she said. Oliver just shrugged, a cool, practiced nonchalance. "When you're in love, you have to brag about it." He was lying through his teeth. I was sure of it, especially since Emmer had arrived with her own partner, Jack. This was just Oliver putting on a brave face. Then her eyes landed on me. "You must be James," she said with a grin. "You look so familiar. Have we met before?" I nodded and quickly typed, "Probably not," hoping to shut down that line of questioning immediately. Of course we Eurostrade D met. Our Eurostrade D spent a semester trying to win her over. Luckily, between the mask and the years that had passed, she didn't recognize me. With Emmer in the mix, the atmosphere between Oliver and me became thick with unspoken tension. The next segment was a simple Q&A about couples' habits. It should have been easy, but when our turn came, the final question blew our entire charade wide open. What is Oliver's least favorite food? Something he will not eat under any circumstances. Without a moment of hesitation, I wrote down my answer: cilantro. The room fell dead silent. For 5 long, excruciating seconds, nobody moved. Then, Emmer's voice, quiet but sharp as a shard of glass, cut through the silence. "Oliver actually eats cilantro." My blood turned to ice. What? When had that happened? The man I knew hated cilantro with a passion so intense that a mere smell of it would make him gag. How could he possibly eat it now? The online comments would be brutal. His own boyfriend doesn't even know his tastes. So fake. I instantly regretted not studying the notebook Mir had given me. The staff double-checked my answer, and with a sinking heart, I confirmed it. When the correct answer was revealed on the large screen, a collective gasp went through the room. Boldly printed were the words scallions. I froze completely. Scallions were my most hated food. I was the one who couldn't stand them. Oliver had always eaten them without a problem. Faced with a stunned silence of the room, Oliver said nothing. He just stared at me, his expression thoughtful and intense. It was Emmer who spoke up, her tone laced with a kind of pitying condescension. Well, maybe it's because James isn't around Oliver that much, so he doesn't know him all that well. She wasn't wrong, but for some reason, her words stung. Daniel nudged me, whispering, "She's basically calling you guys a fake couple." The rest of the day was a blur of manufactured couple activities. By some cruel twist of fate, Oliver and I won the best accommodation euros, a private villa. Our assigned task was to busk on the street for money, while Emmer and Jack were given a barbecue stall nearby. Not long into our task, Emmer approached us, holding out a pale, delicate arm dotted with small red marks. "Sorry, James," she said with a pained smile. "The oil is splattering everywhere. It's really burning me. Would you mind switching places?" Before I could answer, Oliver's voice cut in, sharp and pointed. "Does the show have any rules against switching teams?" The message was clear. The producers hadn't forbidden it, so he was essentially daring me to do it, to go to her. I didn't hesitate. I practically ran over to the barbecue stall. I was starving, and the smell of sizzling chicken wings was intoxicating. I was so focused on grilling, so lost in the glorious task of basting meat, that I didn't even notice the thunderous expression on Oliver's face. It wasn't until later that night that I understood the reason for his dark mood. After filming wrapped and the cameras were off, I showered and went downstairs, reluctant to return to the single bed in our shared villa. A few moments later, Emma appeared, her expression agitated. Before I could even process her presence, she lunged forward and ripped the mask from my face. "It's really you," she gasped, her voice filled with a strange anger. "William." She recognized me. I was about to speak when she spun around and pointed an accusing finger at me, her voice rising. "Oliver, he's William." That's when I saw him, standing in the shadows just behind her. He was staring at me, his eyes burning with a furious, crimson light. I was so screwed. "Oliver, he's lying to you," Emma cried. Oliver stepped forward, his movements slow and deliberate, his gaze never leaving my face. "Of course I knew he was William," he said, his voice dangerously soft. Both Emmer and I were stunned into silence. He reached out, pulling me close to his side, a small, triumphant smile playing on his lips as he looked at Emmer. "Did you really think I'd come on a dating show without my actual boyfriend?" Emmer's face went white. She choked back a sob and ran, tripping over her own feet in her haste to escape. And for the record, Oliver called after her, "I'm letting the whole Shipperfan thing slide for your brother's sake. You deal with it yourself." Now that my cover was blown, there was no point in pretending anymore. "Is she going to be okay?" I asked, a genuine flicker of concern in my voice. Oliver's fingers tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his icy gaze. "Worried about her? Maybe you should be more worried about yourself. Was it fun, stringing me along all this time?" I raised my hands in surrender. "I swear, I never meant to trick you. It was all a huge misunderstanding." But as I started to explain, he leaned in, his warm breath ghosting across my face. What I meant was, he whispered, his voice dropping to a low growl, that kiss after graduation. How are you going to make up for that? My eyes snapped shut, half in fear, half in anticipation. I signed the contract, I mumbled. Do whatever you want. I should have known this was a trap. Now that he knew who I was, my life was over. But instead of punishment, he simply led me to the bedroom. You said it yourself, he murmured, his tone suddenly soft. So stay with me tonight, and get some sleep. This gentle act was more unsettling than any threat. He pulled me into the single bed with him. There was no wooden paddle, no kneeling on keyboards, none of the torturous revenge scenarios I had imagined. But the punishment was far more subtle. He wrapped his arms around me, holding me in a crushing embrace all night, ensuring I couldn't get a wink of sleep. It was his petty revenge for my mute act. The next morning, Oliver was refreshed and radiant. I, on the other hand, looked like a zombie. And now I had to face a full day of filming without my mask. Emma, nursing a conveniently twisted ankle from her dramatic exit the night before, spent the entire day leaning on Oliver for support. He looked miserable, but because I felt partly responsible for her distress, I kept trying to help her myself. This only made Oliver's mood darken further. You're really that soft on her, he seethed. A strange pattern emerged. The moment I would move to help Emma, Oliver would swoop in and do it first, leaving her blushing and him looking like a thundercloud. It was college all over again, him intercepting my every move, sabotaging my efforts, and somehow emerging as the hero. Was he just angry that I was getting close to Emma? Did he really like her that much? The thought sent a strange, unpleasant twist through my gut. When filming finally ended, I went straight to Mir. I'm breaking the contract, I announced. This job is inhuman. She agreed to terminate the assistant role, but the dating contract was another matter. The penalty for breaking it was 1 million. I had only earned a fraction of that. I was already in debt. What was 1 more million? I'll pay it, I said, my voice firm. As I was packing my bags in the dorm, the door creaked open. It was Oliver. You're really leaving? He asked, blocking the exit. You can't quit. I already signed the release, I shot back, trying to push past him. I'm leaving whether you like it or not. He grabbed me, his voice raw with an emotion I couldn't comprehend. Is it really that bad? Do you hate me so much that you'd walk away from all this? His words were so twisted, so illogical, that I finally snapped. Who's the one who hates who here? Don't worry, I won't get in your way with Emma anymore. Don't chase her. I won't be haunting you any longer. I shoved him away. The bitterness I trade suppressed for years finally boiling over. And that's when he said it. Who the hell told you I like Emma? It's always been you. His confession hung in the air, a desperate, heart-wrenching plea. I thought you liked Emma, so I tried to ruin it for you every single time. I couldn't stand seeing you with her. It drove me insane. Please, his voice trembled, don't go. You still owe me a kiss. He pulled me into a tight embrace, his heart hammering against my chest. And in that moment, my entire understanding of our shared history was rewritten. I swallowed hard. Fina euros, what do you want me to do? A slow smile spread across his face. Be my boyfriend, he said, and pay me back with millions of them. He snatched my suitcase and led me back to his room. My brain was still trying to catch up. Wait, you want to date me? I'm a guy, I stated, pointing at my own chest as if for clarification. He chuckled. I told you from the start I like guys. You just didn't believe me. He pulled me down to sit beside him, his eyes shining with a hopeful, unguarded vulnerability that reminded me so much of a golden retriever I once had. It was adorable. My worst enemy was in love with me. A laugh bubbled up inside me. I must be pretty damn irresistible. So I asked, a playful grin spreading across my face, "What's the penalty if I become your real boyfriend?" "Penalty?" he said, his smile widening. "That contract doesn't need to exist." "Deal," I replied. His face turned a brilliant shade of crimson as he leaned in. "This feels unreal," he whispered. "Can you kiss me?" I looked at his stunning face, the face I had once wanted to punch, and gave him a loud, open-mouthed peck on the cheek. He froze completely, like a malfunctioning robot, before mumbling something about fetching my clothes and scurrying away. If a kiss on the cheek did that to him, a real kiss would probably make him short-circuit. That night, a college friend messaged me, having seen me on the show. "You and Oliver are actually together." After I confirmed it, he sent a wall of text that made my heart stop. "That's incredible. He's been in love with you for years. Remember after graduation, when you kissed him and ran?" He was stunned for a solid 10 minutes. Then he sprinted back to his dorm, grabbed a huge bouquet and a ring he'd bought, only to find out you'd already left. He chased you all the way to the airport but missed you. He even went to your house, but your dad said you'd gone overseas. He's been waiting for you all this time. I didn't know. I had no idea. A wave of guilt washed over me. "By the way," my friend added, "do you know why he got into showbiz in the first place?" I didn't. "Go ask him," he said. "He'll tell you." Just as I hung up, Oliver walked in with a bag of barbecue, his tone back to its usual sharp-tongued banter. "Midnight snack. You'll get fat." Seeing my strange expression, he softened, handing me the bag. "Here, extra spicy grilled chicken wings, your favorite." I started to laugh, and then, to my surprise, my eyes began to sting. "What's wrong?" he asked, concerned. "A piece of barbecue is making you cry." I stepped forward, cupped his face in my hands, and kissed him softly on the lips. It was clumsy and awkward, just like the first time. When I pulled away, he was completely stunned, his ears so red they looked like they might catch fire. My friend was right. I smiled and took a happy bite of chicken. A few minutes later, Oliver leaned in again. One more. Without hesitation, I gave him another quick peck. He covered his face with his hands, but a huge, unstoppable grin broke through. It was a grin that looked like it was about to launch itself into orbit. "Kiss with a roasted chicken flavor," he mumbled into his palms. "Not bad." I grinned back. "Of course not," I said. "You're pretty damn good, too." He was into me. In his own twisted, infuriating, and deeply confusing way, Oliver had been into me since our sophomore year. He confessed it all later how watching me flirt with other girls made him furious, how he realized the only time he had my undivided attention was when he was competing with me. He loved the way I looked at him, even in anger, as if he was the only person in the world who mattered. He thought our rivalry was a game, a way to stay connected. And me, I was just so caught up in winning that I never realized the game had changed. Or perhaps, it had never been a game at all. Our story didn't have a simple beginning. It was a chaotic mess of misunderstandings, rivalry, and years of unspoken feelings. But looking at him now, his face lit up with a joy so pure it was breathtaking. I realized that maybe the best love stories aren't the simple ones. Maybe they're the ones you have to fight for, the ones that force you to rewrite everything you thought you knew. What do you think about Oliver waiting all those years for William? Was his intense, sometimes problematic behavior born from a place of unrequited love? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you loved this roller coaster journey from archenemies to lovers, don't forget to drop a like on this video and hit that subscribe button for more stories that will capture your heart. We'll see you in the next one.